Hello, this is AnlineOffline. Today we'll summarize the Season 5 patch notes for COD Mobile 2025, along with other news. First, the stomach multiplier on Black Ops 4's Switchblade now deals base damage. It's now less punishing to use at all ranges and can more reliably achieve its expected base time to kill. Its skeleton stock now increases overall movement and is now equivalent to a no stock on other guns. Not only does its max sprint speed become a top 10 fastest, but this also increases its max strafe speed even further, despite already being number 1. The recoil on the Peacekeeper from Black Ops 3 and 4 has been buffed. It is much easier to handle now. Instead of quickly going left, right, it's now a gentle left pause, left, right. Unlike what happened to the XM4, the new Task Force recoil isn't mind-numbingly easy, as it still has some kick to it. The heavy long barrel on 2019's M13 won't destroy your strafe speed anymore. I don't really use it, but perhaps some of you can get some use out of it. The ASM-10 or COD Online's AN94 is getting a couple of buffs to attachments. The Branson barrel, which gives it its signature hyperburst, will punish your movement less than the Ranger and Marksman barrels. It didn't have an issue with flinch, but its no stock won't harm it as much anymore. Remember roughly 3 years ago when Black Ops 2's Type 25 had relatively good bloom for its time? Well, it seems to have been restored, and is now average overall, comparable to the AMAX and M4. The flinch was something to be wary of, but it's solid now. The LK24 already had one of the best blooms, but now it's the most accurate full auto gun, on par with burst weapons. The stomach multiplier now matches its arms. Thus, it's now relatively easy to achieve its potential time to kill at mid and long range. 2019's FR556 has gotten a hefty range buff. Its base effective range is now 40 meters, equal to the base KN44. The short barrel now offers faster strafing. The Marksman barrel on Black Ops 2's MSMC was supposed to get a buff so that it wouldn't hurt your ADS as much anymore, but that has been scrapped. Instead, the strike stock won't harm your strafing as much. The MSMC now has the fastest base movement speed in the SMG class, faster than most pistols. With no stock, it can match the Tech 9 as the 11th fastest sprinter. With light stock, it can match the Mac 10 as the 4th fastest strafer. Black Ops 4's MX9 got a modest range buff. This is fair given its lack of attachments to boost it. Cold War's KSP also got a similarly modest range buff. By comparison, Vanguard's M1 Garand only got a marginal buff. The numbers are off, but it seems that Akimbo on the MW11 will now improve hipfire instead of harming it like the Deagle. Black Ops 3's LCAR only got minor buffs to its ADS time and range profile. Since my last video on Vanguard's machine pistol, I've softened my stance on the solo version as it could function as a pocket Mac 10 that dealt consistent damage to the legs. That will no longer be the case as 2 attachments will be nerfed. The short barrel's penalty on sprint out time will be harsher. That by itself is not an issue due to its fast base sprint out, but it could be inconvenient when combined with Akimbo. More importantly, it was heavily reliant on its 40-round mag, but now that will deal 10% less damage to the legs. That will be problematic in its second range for both solo and Akimbo. COD Online's AK117 is getting a damage nerf in BR. I don't fully grasp time to kill in BR, but that looks bad. Just in time for a reasonable number of players to have the free mythic by now, and for the paid mythic to return as well. If the 117 did this little damage in multiplayer, you would be ruined. Why the devs insist on doing everything and anything, but doing something about its aim assist, the actual root issue, is beyond me. At this point, it's safe to say that the KRM signature attachment has been scrapped, much like the Joker launcher. Instead, the J3 is getting one that's interesting. The new hammer grip allows you to fan your revolver as if you were using Deadeye in Red Dead Redemption. It takes away your ability to ADS, locks access to trigger attachments, and turns it into a true semi-auto. But your fire rate cap is now 1600. this is not beginner friendly for thumb players, much less humanly possible. I can maybe do 600 in short bursts. Just for reference, the Desert Eagle in the original Modern Warfare had a limit of 1200, and you needed a modded controller to reach that. And lastly, both mythic blueprints for the AS Val and Holger got their iron sights reworked, just like the XM4 and Peacekeeper earlier this year. Moving on to streaks. The wraps from Black Ops 3 got a nerf to its score cost, and will now require one more kill to earn. I didn't find myself nearly as threatened by them as I should have in Black Ops 3, but they are inconvenient when you're camo grinding and a teammate calls them in. Instead of going down in one shot, the cryo bomb now has double the health of a player. I understand that the Thermite Man of War has increased the usage of Dauntless, but this isn't a solution. The only explanation I can think of is that the devs really want to validate the existence of dowsers. Martyrdom will now detonate twice as fast after death. Wanna pull off an execution? No. Wanna pick up somebody's mythic blueprint? No. Wanna pick up somebody's ammo when you're using Vulture? No. Combined with Demo Expert, we have to be a lot more cautious moving forward. Tactical Mass now reduces the effectiveness of tacticals by 85%. Remember back when Iron Lungs only increased your breath hold time by 5 seconds? Well, it's 25 now. And lastly, Spycraft now allows you to hack equipment and streaks slightly faster. So, what are my thoughts on these balance changes? The USS-9 is still public enemy number 1, as those nerfs from last season didn't matter unless you were grinding cross-map longshots. Aside from that, most of these changes are fine. If I had to list the ones that I'm looking most forward to, it would be the LK, Type 25, FR, MW11, MSMC, Peacekeeper, and J3. The biggest issues I have are the Cryo Bomb, Martyrdom, and Machine Pistol because those are uncalled for. The new gun this season is the futuristic VMP from Black Ops 3 and 4. It's based on the CX-4 Storm SMG by Beretta. It's a fast-firing weapon with a bit of recoil, but it's mostly vertical for the first 14 rounds, so it isn't bad to burst fire with. The base fire rate is equal to the FFAR, but with rapid fire, it's between the Rapid BP50 and Burst Tech-9. With 3 attachments, it can achieve the new fastest sprint speed in the game, or tie with the Mach-10 and buffed MSMC for the 4th fastest strafe speed. And due to its Cold War style gunsmith, it can hold up to 66 rounds per mag with no movement penalties. So even if it's not good enough to be a primary, it could become a top tier pistol alternative. There's also going to be a mythic blueprint, so if it's not already top tier, it's reasonable to expect it to later receive a buff to be top tier. The new wildcard this season is Killstreak Support, which functions like a high roller from Black Ops 6, and this allows you to equip a 4th streak. It's also compatible with Persistence, but you can't use 2 high-level streaks. Camos have been revamped to better cover guns and blueprints. This also includes the common and rare skins that you may have forgotten about. You can also finally track camo progress during matches, similar to other CODs. The most anticipated change for multiplayer was a change to movement animations to more closely resemble the Warzone era CODs. It's important to remember that these animations and auto-leaning were only visual and client-side. Unfortunately, it seems to have been pushed back to Season 7. Auto-leaning is currently available as a setting option, but it doesn't work yet. It's been quite some time since we last got a new multiplayer map, but we got Zoo from Cold War, which was a remake of a paid DLC map from Black Ops 1. VR players, if it looks familiar, you would be correct, as the Outbreak version was used in our Krai map. Speaking of Krai, they optimized the map to take up less storage space. If only they can do the same thing about our microtransactions. The training room got a visual update. The shadows are somehow darker despite having a bigger hole in the roof. Much like Kendor Hideout earlier this year, the 2019 version of Vacant got a physical update. and is now different from previous versions in the franchise. The outdoor area is smaller, the shipment containers are gone, and the A flag has a lot less cover. This gate is open now, and the C flag is more vulnerable. And lastly, the third hardpoint is gone because that building no longer exists. Unlike Candor Hideout, I can't say I'm a fan of these changes. I guess you can say Vacant now lives up to its name. Warzone style buy stations are now in COD Mobile BR. In exchange for scavenged cash, you can now buy C4s, thermites, tanks, armored vehicles, lethal streaks, and self-revives on top of miscellaneous gear. The catch is that this is all temporary, much like wildcards. My guess is that they're using this mode to gauge interest and receive feedback for permanent changes in the future. Aside from the previously mentioned but dysfunctional auto-leaning, there are a couple of new settings. You now have 5 separate custom graphics for multiplayer and BR each. So if you're like me, you might want to fix that. If you've noticed white outlines around enemies last season, there will be an option to turn that off if you want. The leaks were right, and the current collab is with NieR Automata. There's new melee skins, new draws, and a new camo, as was the case with alchemy stars. However, I'm not nearly as impressed by stacking gifts on top of guns and calling it a camo. Another thing, in the announcement video on YouTube, they hearted these 2 comments. Make of that what you will. But after Gundam in July, it seems that they'll be done for collabs for the rest of the year. This is old news now, but it's still important to recap that it's the end of the line for Warzone Mobile. As of the 16th of May, the live service, microtransactions, and content updates have ceased. The 18th of May was the last day it was downloadable. This isn't much of a surprise considering the Microsoft acquisition and layoffs. The game servers are still up. In fact, I believe some people are still playing a version of the game before the Black Ops 6 integration. It's unfortunate because I was actually tempted to give it another try before Black Ops 6. It seemed like it was finally in a semi-functional state for those with high-end devices. At launch, I only played 5 hours, and I was so thoroughly underwhelmed that I decided to stop procrastinating and ace my midterms after spring break. As we all know, the Black Ops 6 integration was a nightmare, not just for Warzone Mobile, but for regular Warzone, setting back optimization progress made during Modern Warfare 3's lifespan. Would I have played it long term if it was optimized? It's hard to say because I was never interested in the game. Not because I perceived it as an existential threat, but because I was simply outside the target demographic. I was never into Warzone. For those of you that are new here, and originally left COD Mobile for Warzone Mobile, but have returned, I wish to be sympathetic to those who have lost. I am reminded of how hostile and elitist a certain faction of that community still is, but nonetheless you have my condolences. However, I have no such sympathy for that game, as it effectively gatekept years of content. According to Leakers on Duty, JC Rosethorn and other Bilibili content creators were invited to make BR tutorials that featured Warzone-style content in anticipation of COD Mobile's launch in China. Activision intervened and stopped such content from being released. They saw how successful Warzone was, how much money a mobile COD can make, and how much money they could make if they didn't have to split the profits with Tencent. Alas, Charlie Intel has confirmed that even after 5 years, COD Mobile makes more money in 1 month than Warzone Mobile ever did in its entire lifespan. If it weren't for Warzone Mobile, we could have had game-changing content like that of recently, as early as Christmas of 2020. But I suppose it's better late than never. In the past couple of years, Activision has shown no interest in greenlighting content older than Black Ops 3 and nothing newer than Vanguard, as that was supposed to be reserved for Warzone Mobile. But now that the latter barrier no longer exists, all of that newer content is now fair game. All those guns, those aftermarket parts, those new maps, those remastered maps, all fair game. But hey, That's just my opinion. Hopefully Activision allows for more content outside of the Warzone 1 hand-me-downs. Not that I'm against carrying on its lost legacy, it just gets a little stale when it's consecutive. That, and it seems that Zombies has been delayed to next year. Again. Also, it's almost halfway through the year. Where are the promised rank restrictions? But that's all for today. The next video will be a guide on the Desert Eagle to finish the pistol class. Until then, my name is An, and I'm off.